If these guys have anything.
My mom said she wanted to watch. Ballpark. They got the big
Yeah.
happens so fast.
Been there already. Yeah.
There'll be more, there'll be more opportunity.
Not away.
It's surprising to me would be how full it was, how much she had in there. Okay, are we ready? Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order, please.
Council workshop meeting Monday, June 1st, 2020, 6 p.m. Heidrich.
Aye.
Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Obermark.
Aye.
Patke. Pettit. Scornia.
Yes.
Sullentrup. Wessels. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Will the committee members answer if they have or have not read the minutes of the meeting dated March 2nd, 2020? Heidrich. Aye. Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Obermark.
Aye.
Scornia.
Yes.
Sullentrup. Wessels.
Here.
Having read the minutes, are there any questions or comments?
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Heidrich, to approve the minutes from our last council workshop meeting, excuse me, which was on March 2nd, 2020. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the minutes. Thank you.
Approval of presentations, renewal of city's property casualty insurance. And we have Amy DeBlasi with Daniel and Henry.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Very good.
You get to be the center of attention.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right. Everyone can hear me, I guess.
Uh-huh.
That's fine.
So my name is Amy DeBlasi with Daniel and Henry in St. Louis, and I'm pleased to provide an overview of the property and casualty insurance renewal for the city of Washington. So this year, overall, our renewal is a decrease in premium, which I'm so happy about. It's fantastic news. This is not typical of what we are seeing in the insurance market this year. So I'm particularly glad to be able to share it with you. The city's losses were much improved this year. The 1920 term is by far the best out of the last 5 in terms of claims that have been paid. Just want to make a few comments in addition to what's in our big proposal document. I would like to point out several details which require consideration and comment. The city's property carrier, who is Chubb, has provided us with the option to increase the deductible from $5,000 to $10,000 this year. That would be our all perils deductible. Our present wind hail deductible is already $10,000, so we think that increasing the deductible from $5,000 to $10,000 would provide some consistency. The difference in pricing to increase your deductible from $5,000 to $10,000 is $7,378 per year. So we think that the savings is substantial enough. The increase in the deductible should also lead to a decrease in the small claims frequency. So we'd be less inclined to turn in the smaller claims and help us to maintain a good loss ratio, which the insurance companies appreciate. On to workers' compensation. The city's coverage is provided by Missouri Employers Mutual. And this year for renewal, the premium has decreased in part due to our lower payroll projections, but in larger part due to an improved experience modifier. The mod has actually decreased from 1.40 to 1.19, which reflects very good experience. And for that, Missouri Employers Mutual has a nice credit that they've applied to the policy. The current term also has a very clean record. We've only reported 2 work comp claims this term. Total paid on those 2 so far is $14,832. but we do congratulate the city and the department leaders for this improvement in work comp experience, because it reflects what a good job you're doing.
When you say
Good question.
for the term, what time period?
That is June 30, 2019 to June 30, 2020. So we still have 29 days to go.
Only 2 in that 11
Correct.
months or so.
Correct.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's
Excellent.
great.
Moving on to law enforcement. So in your proposal, we have proposed a change of carriers for your law enforcement liability. The City of Washington's Public Safety Department, having no paid law enforcement claim since the oldest record I could find going back to 2001, is such a well-run organization that actually insurance companies seek us out to provide quotes for the city, and that's what happened in this circumstance. So we moved the coverage away from Travelers to Indian Harbor 2 years ago, and this year Travelers was given the opportunity to quote the coverage. Travelers quoted substantially lower premium than Indian Harbor. I think it has a lot to do with having our documented policies and procedures in place, so thank you, Chief. Excellent loss record in this area. It makes our job easier to find affordable and adequate coverage for you, so congratulations on that. General liability comments. Our Travelers premium is up about 6% this year. It has to do with the market, as well as a couple of larger claims that have factored into the increase. We will state that the overall number of sewer backup claims has decreased, and we support the unified stance between the city and Travelers that unless the city should be found to be grossly negligent as regards to sewer maintenance, these types of claims do not get paid by either the city or the carrier. The documentation on these claims is also very, very good. Thank you, Mary. The city receives praise from insurance adjusters for preparing thorough documentation to illustrate each individual circumstance, makes the job of the adjusters easier. Once again, we have no claims for employment practices, public officials liability, or cyber. Congratulations. So the city has, again, good policies and procedures and a quality administration. Last but not least, we've included drone liability this year as an option. We received actually 4 quotes for the drone liability. We found that incorporating this coverage into the various different lines through Travelers was the best way to go. And the cost of including that is $562. So if the city chose to not purchase that coverage, we would reduce the total premium by $562. So once again, I commend you and the team members for doing such a great job, and we appreciate the opportunity to continue to work for you.
So what is our overall decrease this year then?
$15,120.
Good deal. That's great.
What is the drone, coverage?
The drone coverage was sought for firefighting support and other purposes. I hear that may have even been used to locate a missing child or search for a missing child. So primarily for law enforcement, but we also have it incorporated into the general liability coverage. So I understand that the city is to become owners of the bridge lighting. And for example, if you wanted to use the drone and go up and survey the bridge lights, different purposes like that.
That would be a
Any
good
other
use for it.
Yeah, that'd be a good use.
Yeah.
We talked about that.
Yeah, that'd be a real good use for it.
Okay. Well, thank you all for having me.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank
Amy.
you. Thanks for
You're
being here, Amy.
welcome.
It's always nice to see you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, okay.
I just want to express gratitude for all the department heads for making this. This has been like I said, it was great to see these numbers, but truly everything from our documentation to the professionalism of the department heads speaks volumes when we get these numbers back. So thank you.
Agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. I wanted to mention that as well.
We need a motion to send that to council.
Yes.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Holtmeyer, to send this on to council. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? By your vote, you've sent that on. Thank you.
Report of department heads. Parks, final pay request, Midwest Pool Management 2020 recruiting and hiring expenses.
Evening, everyone. Before you, you'll see a final pay request for Midwest Pool Management, our lifeguard company. And this is for expenses occurred before the MPM contract was canceled on April 6th. I was told it was for recruiting, hiring, marketing, all the different things that they do to go out and recruit part-time staff to work at our pool. And so I'm asking for final payment on that.
Any questions or comments?
We confirmed, as Wayne had indicated within his letter, that this was within the contract prior to us terminating it with them, so expenses related to such.
Make a motion, move it on to council.
Second.
And we have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Heidrich, to move this item on to council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you've moved it on. Thank you.
I do have a few other quick
Sure.
Time.
announcements, or updates, I guess. Next council meeting, you'll see a stipend payment for Brockmiller Construction, and that's for that team, one of the two teams that was not selected for the, their proposal was not selected as as the winning proposal for the pool, new aquatic center. And we had that in their contract. I guess both teams that were not selected got a $10,000 stipend payment for their work on the pool. And with that payment, then we were able to take their ideas and such, and if we saw fit, we could include them into the final plan. And so that was brought up, I guess, from Landmark as some, like, I guess, a best practice, or
It was brought up early on when we were setting this up for requesting qualifications from teams or whatever, that in order to go ahead and get the best ideas back out of there was to go ahead and provide them with some, a stipend to go ahead and cover their costs. So we own those conceptual drawings, and that was part of what we, as return of what we got out of them. But the idea was that you could include or incorporate other ideas from the other teams, even if you didn't pick them on that, and their time was not wasted necessarily. So,
and we had $20,000 allotted for that, and so $10,000 for each firm. Now, I've only received one invoice so far from Brockmiller, so I'm assuming the other firm will eventually reach out to invoice me, and then we'll have it here again. So, as far as the pool goes, just a update. We're working tonight. You'll see the contract that'll come before you guys for, I guess, final approval. If you recall, last council meeting, you guys all approved that, and then tonight will be the contract. And then we're still working very hard on designing the pool. Lots of meetings still going on behind the scenes. Today, Cochran was out at the old pool doing asbestos and lead paint testing. My guys, our staff has worked very hard on getting lots of stuff that we wanted to save out of the pool and into the upper portion of the existing pool house that won't be renovated. And then some other stuff went to the park shop and things like that. But it will be ready to go, and then provided the contract is approved tonight, then next Monday, June 8th, unless there's any weather setbacks or anything like that, they'll begin demolition. So things are moving along rather quickly. A couple other small updates. If you're in City Hall here, you'll see sneeze guards on each floor, and then even at the library also. Those were the park staff made those. And they did a really good job. They look very professional looking. So I told them they could, if we had more time, they could start manufacturing those as a side business. Things are moving along at the main park playground when it's not raining. We still have more rock to get in there and then compact it. And then we got to do, install the concrete curbing. And once the curbing's installed, then the contractor will come back and lay down the rubberized surfacing. And then we'll just have some more sidewalks and landscaping and stuff like that to put in. And finally, with Lakeview, with the Little League baseball being closed this year, we've had a lot of requests, but so far only one has come through to use those fields for baseball tournaments. And we have it's actually a softball tournament set up this weekend. It'll be Saturday and Sunday, pretty much all day, both days. So far, the other requests have been for baseball, and our infield's not quite big enough for baseball bases. But for girls, this will be a girls softball tournament this weekend, and it should work fine. So we'll have staff working that, and the organizer will be charged accordingly for staff time. So.
Do we charge for people that want to practice on the fields?
No, I mean, if they really would like the field to be reserved, like if
Yeah,
there was
only
a
if they want to reserve it.
high demand,
But when they're reserved, do we line it? Do we put the bases out?
it's an additional fee to line it and drag it and everything. But if they want it done, we can do it. But generally, like if it's mom and dad or, like a small family, they might call the office, we kind of feel them out, and then, if it's just like a family thing, we just tell them to use it. If it's an organized practice, we try to get them to rent it, just in case there's someone else that comes along that would want to rent it.
The test site out at the fairgrounds, are those all our cones and all that out there?
They are, and we were getting ready to take them today. Actually, it was on the list for tomorrow to restack them and get them out of there, but then Darren may update you later. We had a request, maybe the county may be using that as a test site in the near future for a couple weeks. So it won't be long, they will be out of there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just take the time now to go ahead and say it.
Might as well.
We had received a request from the presiding commissioner, Tim Brinker, about doing COVID testing at the fairgrounds. It would be for just 2 or 3 days, I think, or something along those lines, and it would be between June 9th and the 22nd. It would be run by the State Department of Health, and then I believe, based upon the email that I saw, that they would Missouri National Guard would help them go ahead and assist them with moving cars through there. So that was a question I had. I told Tim that we would let him know, but basically that we didn't see a problem with using the facility. Mercy used it for extensive time beyond 2 or 3 days, so we'll just have to wait and see. But my biggest concern was that if there were we didn't want to have a conflict with the chamber and the fair using that. I know that they're still making some decisions upon that, but our contract with them is always July 5th through the end of August, and we didn't want to go ahead and commit that until we knew that they gave us an answer back on what they had planned on doing. So, but those dates should work fine because we don't have any conflict with them.
Anything else? Does anyone have any questions for Wayne?
Wayne, before we give the blessing on the pool, we brought that forward last week or whatever, or I brought it forward about, can we throw that in on the numbers to dig that deeper, just in case when and we have the money to put a taller diving board like we're going to do for the slide. Was that ever talked about any bit more?
It was. We got the numbers on it, so to dig the pool deeper and add the slide and the tower or some kind of structure to get up to it, they gave us a price. It was a little over
It's like 19,000,
yeah,
but I
close to
think that
19.
included the board, and that did not include, I don't think that took out the, it included digging it deeper and the board, so the 3-meter board. But that was one option, and so we have looked at this. I mean, I will say, I think internally, we still don't feel that that's necessary because we did take it past the aquatics committee, one of the members that is responsible for teams that utilize it. And it was her response back to the committee that that's not necessary. Most of our teams don't have diving competitions that they would even have that anyway. And most of the teams that she's experienced with have never had that as part of their competition. So her recommendation was that it was not necessary unless you just wanted it for nostalgia purposes. With us, like I said, we had 1,300 plus responses back on the survey that we had, and so we took that all into, that was serious consideration throughout all of that of what features do you want in the pool. There will be one last time I would like to go ahead and have the Aquatics Committee take a look on the final features that we have. I know we have to make some decisions pretty quickly in order to keep that moving, but that contract, as Wayne said, is still in design phase or whatever, but it's not going to be recommended by at least staff. That's up to we'll take the numbers back to the Aquatics Committee if they want to consider it, but it would not be recommended by staff to go ahead and include that at this time. There are other features that we think are much more, whatever you do, you're going to be taken from one feature, away to go ahead and have another. So all of that has to be taken into account, and as we all know, we only have so much money to go ahead and share around. So.
If I remember
I
correctly,
just didn't want to put the cart before the horse, If we want to do something down the line.
And we can, and that's a
things
question,
now.
I do not believe we asked that question, so fair enough. We can go ahead and ask them and say, how much would it cost to dig that out if you wanted to?
Right.
You would have to add at least I think there was an increase in, I don't know, it would be more concrete at that one spot where you go ahead and pour the high dive. It's, if you wanted that at a later date.
I think I remember correctly, when we had the other pool and we took the high dive down, it was because insurance said it wasn't insured anymore.
And now that Amy's here, she's still sticking around. She must not have anything else to do tonight, so welcome to stay and listen to our meeting, but I'm glad she did, because we asked her that question, and basically, as long as we dig it deep enough, it's not an insurance issue.
Okay.
But
Okay?
it was an issue, it would cost us more at the lifeguards because they have to pay their premium increases for having a pool with a high dive. So it does cost a little more on the lifeguard.
There's expended cost to it.
So that contract that would be passed
So
on
that
to
would be
us.
insurance on the lifeguards or just their premium?
Their premium, it would be passed on to us.
Sure, so there would be.
You could see it that way, correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Public Works Cleanup, Paint Up, and Fix Up Campaign.
Would be you,
Don't
John.
fight over it.
That's fine. Good evening. So we are excited, proud to announce that we are going to have a big trash week. That will be June, I believe, hold on, let me get the calendar.
15th through the 19th.
15th through the 19th. So we'll try to get the word out. Hopefully that still has time to make print in the paper. But we'll get some Facebook stuff out. Standard big trash week. That will be done with city staff. It will be the last major event that we have with the trash collection.
The last hurrah.
We will, what's that?
The last hurrah.
The last hurrah, that's correct. So the concept there is that's a recycling week as well. So they'll be running essentially, Waste Connections will be running 2 trucks. They'll have the recycling operation going, regular trash collection going, and then we're going to be running our guys about an hour behind them is kind of the concept. We feel that also gives them an opportunity then to kind of see how things are kind of done. They will be then taking over the fall Big Trash Week, which I believe is already scheduled, and I don't have it off the top of my head. But so they'll be having two events essentially stacked up here, middle to end of the year. With that, there's always the ability that if you do have something kind of an on-call service, that you can place a phone call to Waste Connections to get something picked up for a fee of their choice that is not ran through the city at all. So it's agreed upon fee between you and them. Today was our first day of trash pickup. Hopefully calls were minimized. I was kind of keeping track of how many we had. It was kind of hard because different departments were getting different phone calls. It seemed to be pretty minor in the sense of 6 to 8, is what I was finding. I don't know how that maybe changed throughout the evening. People come home from work. Maybe there was a streak that maybe was missed that I was not made aware of throughout the day. Regardless of that, send those complaints either A, to the Waste Connections customer service line or to Pam at at the street department. They will get those taken care of tomorrow. It's still a work in progress. We had a little hiccup this morning on dumpsters. A couple of the dumpsters had like a hook on them, but we worked through all that with Tony. Tony did a good job scrambling people to get that taken care of. So we're going to have these hiccups.
Was today the first day of trash and recycling?
It was, yes. So you should have received a code red last night around
Yes,
6,
we
7
How,
did.
o'clock.
how does it work?
How does it work?
They use
Put
the same
stuff on the
truck?
curb.
Two separate trucks.
Two separate trucks. Yeah, they'll run up. There'll probably be multiple trucks through town because some alleys will have a smaller truck, shorter wheelbase. I don't know what equipment they're using.
Recycle truck is, I stood out there and watched them. It's,
Well, I was worried about you.
Yeah,
I already filed my complaint with
yeah, I got that. That's number 9. I didn't count that
This
one.
guy sits, he rides like shotgun, and he operates that thing, and those arms reach out, and he's moving away different cans with these big arms. Then he grabs the one he wants.
And he runs it all with a joystick.
It's slick, yeah.
So we had a pretty good day today as far as contamination. They were watching as they were going through as far as having trash and recycling. So
yeah.
today was good. They said they were actually very, very happy with how many people set out recycling bins and how many complied with the requirements of it. That's a huge deal that people comply with what goes in that. Keep in mind, cardboard, paper, and anything that can be considered a container. So if you have a Fisher-Price plastic car that you want to put in the recycling bin, that does not contain anything except fun. So that's not a real container. So containers, just keep having that kind of in your mindset. Overall, it was a fairly good day. I have noticed, I have a couple complaints, they were pretty minor, that they did call Waste Connections and they had a little issue with getting through to them as far as being busy. They are the primary source of customer service. We need to transition over to them, and I'll address that with them as the week goes on. But remember, you can always call us too, and we got some direct lines of communication. That's a much bigger deal for us, for me specifically, is make sure that they are available to take those calls.
Did they say people were using the container for trash?
I didn't get any of those today.
No.
We are trying to weed those out as the week goes on. I made a phone call to one individual today to talk to him about that. He basically said, "Oh, I thought it was a trash can, no matter how big you can put recycling on it." So,
John, I'll
cans-
kind of piggyback off what you said. I talked to a supervisor today,
Mm-hmm.
and he was just astounded how much recyclables were getting put in, how nobody was putting trash in them, that other municipalities put these out, and they're having to pull dirty diapers, they're having to do this, the only complaint he had is what everybody needs to learn, this all learning curve, putting them in the right direction,
turn them the correct way.
and not having them right onto your mailbox, post or brick, they need to grab them. They need to
Yep.
get a hold and grab them.
Exactly. I mean, and those are the things that we're going to kind of learn as we go on. So I think they're tracking those, and then if it becomes like I don't want to say frequent offender because it's not that big of a deal, but a frequent issue, we'll reach out to those individuals specifically. If you're setting the can out, you might as well do it the right way. So lid faces out so they can lift. If you can imagine, they're trying to lift that into a truck. So day one was good,
Good.
So-
Would one, let's say somebody used it for garbage and they missed it, would that contaminate the whole load?
Yes. Has that potential.
Okay.
With that, what would happen is that, for example, if I was the offender, if my trash, or if my recycling can had a contaminants and that was a full load, and they didn't catch that full load would go down to St. Louis because it gets shipped actually back to Kansas. But that full load would go to St. Louis. It would hit the floor as a dirty load. They would try to separate it to the best they can, but if they could not, that thing's going to a landfill, not our landfill. So what we're trying to head off is if there is a contaminated truckload, that would then go to our landfill because that saves us money in the long run as well. Do not do that.
I know.
to the best of our abilities. Remember,
Just saying,
dry, clean containers and cardboard and paper. So containers.
And what you might want to express also, John, on some of these calls, and for all of us, is I've had a couple calls today, and when they dumped it, people were taking the cardboard and smashing it.
Yeah, they can't shake it
When
out.
they're, it's not coming out. So they're like, well, they left, well,
Yep.
it's gotta be just stacked in there. You can't smash.
Yeah. We'll work, and they all know those minor details, and we'll work through each one of them. But from what I heard, actually, the giant bins, Mark, that they're actually being filled up because the cardboard is working exactly the way we thought. Keep in mind, if you have a cardboard box, it doesn't take a whole lot to break it down into flat. So you can make room in your trash cart by just flattening the box. Actually, that's what they would prefer. So if there's any questions, Pam, Tony, these guys are, I mean, quite honestly, they're doing a great job keeping up on these things. There are a few that have some stragglers that have to get picked up yet. There's a handful that have to be delivered that weren't essentially on the list that the city gave them. We're working through those things. We'll get there. So, so anything else on that? We are looking at, engineering's looking at applying for, it'll be on the next council agenda, but applying for a grant through the Franklin County Transportation Committee. It's a sales tax. It's approximately $300,000 a year. It's a competitive grant with all communities and road districts within the county. Historically, well, not historically, since I've been here since 2016, we've applied for somewhere around 40 to 50,000 with the idea that that's a pretty attainable number. Nobody's really going to vote that away. It's always utilized to supplement other grant projects. This year, with the Bush Creek Greenway scheduled for construction early next year, and that being part of a transportation to the school system, I thought it would be good to actually request a little more money to kind of offset those local funds. So we'll have a resolution in next week's next meeting's packet for $85,000 to offset some of the local cost on that. I do feel very strongly that any way you can connect a school campus to your downtown facilities, that makes sense for everyone. So that's that.
The county sets aside 5%
Yeah.
of the sales tax revenue that they get from the Road and Bridge Fund towards this for cities to go ahead and compete, even though cities most likely have the most sales tax dollars that contribute to that pot of money to begin with. But they turn around and they do give us a little 5% for us to fight over, so.
Yeah, and it's a friendly fight, so, but yeah, so.
Just making sure we know where that money's coming from, and what we have to do to get it back.
We'll put together a really good application, I promise. Local streets, fund with their own dollars. Fair Street is Fair Street, 4th Street reconstruction, sidewalks. It's going well. We're probably running 95, 98% plans. We have to get a couple easements from some of the property owners to make some tie-ins on Fair Street. So hopefully we get that bid in the next 4 weeks. Would be good. So you're looking at late summer, fall construction, which isn't ideal, but I think it's doable. It'll actually pair up pretty well with the pool project. So the idea is to get that kind of community at Fair Street, that kind of corridor that connected to the pool. So kids, again, can walk there. Those are narrow streets. Anytime you get people off of a walking path is wise. Water rates. We've been working on this for some time. Board of Public Works, we met late winter just to talk about water rates. We've briefed them kind of where the city sits on water rates. We are in the top lowest 3 in actual rates. What I mean by that is revenue coming in is the lowest of a city our size in the state of Missouri. So it's cheap. It does handcuff us a little bit, though, when we're trying to replace water lines and do those things. I'll say, I mean, Kevin does a good job, does a really good job, great job. But we get calls such as, great job. But when we get calls like, the fire hydrants aren't being painted, or I had water main breaks here, we're prioritizing because there's just not enough to keep up with those things. The water fund does tend, or will go red, operating in the red, and I don't know if I'm going to get the time right, but it's in the very near future. The rate structure that we are proposing, that the Board of Public Works has seen, is it condenses. Right now, there's 3 tiers. It'll condense it to 2 tiers, and then put a service charge. So if you have an active meter, you'll get a service charge. Very similar to Ameren or any other utility. If you have a meter, you get a service charge. I'll have more information for you. We'll be talking about that probably July and August. But I wanted you to kind of be aware water rates is going to be, we're going to have to talk about that here this summer. In order to kind of keep up or get caught up, to be quite honest.
John has briefed the Board of Public Works, I think, at the last 2 meetings.
Yeah, yes.
And so
I have some handouts that I can easily send out that you can read.
Right, so we'll have more information in the near future.
John, with the proposed increase, where do we end up in the,
The bottom five? No, we'll be on the lower end still of
Still on the lower end?
50%, correct.
Okay.
But it's been so long since we wanted to kind of take on this water rates, and I don't know necessarily all the history behind it.
Right.
But for us to get, to at least have some money left over to where we can actually make improvements, like whole improvements, it's just too much to tackle at one time. So it's kind of not necessarily a phase in, but this will at least get us on the path to be kind of solvent in that fund. A good example is capital improvement sales tax, there were dollars that were allocated to build a water tank. It wasn't 100%, it was more like 50%.
Correct.
But one of the goals would be it seems odd to me that the water fund can't fund a water tank if the capital improvement can't support it. That just doesn't make sense. So that's not always how we've operated. It's kind of more of a change in maybe how we should be operating, but that's going to take some time.
okay.
Kind of the idea is if you had if you were a family of four or whatever, 3-bedroom house, and your water bill was pick a number, $20, just pick a number, $20, you'd be looking at a $22 bill now. If you were a large industrial park where your water bill is pushing $3,000 a month, you'd have an increase of 7.5%, which is what is that? That's 303. Do the math. 210. Yep, 280. Something like 280. So just give you some feeling on how we're kind of doing this. It'll be a lot easier too on the finance side of things because it's 3 tiers is very confusing. I'm not going to take Kevin's thunder. We are looking at slip lining, 6-inch sewer line. Kevin can talk about that when he gets up here, which will reduce our infiltration and inflow, which is a kind of a macro issue that we got to kind of tackle a little bit. That is budgeted, but Kevin did put together a good list. Meadow Lake is being served by the city. We're working on getting water out there. The meters are in. Kevin can brief you on that a little bit too on the schedule and getting that done. So we're moving on getting water out to Meadow Lake. That's all I had.
Any questions of John?
I talked to you about the Casey Lake.
Yes. Yeah, Casey Lake. So we had I'm sorry, I thought it'd be on the agenda, but if you were aware, 9 months ago, maybe a year ago, we talked about the Casey Pond. Came to a few of you, I'm not sure who. I think Councilman Pecky actually asked me about it. There's a pond just down from Casey's, just up from Borgia, west of Borgia, up the hill. That pond was not and has not and will not be maintained by the city at this time. I think there was some false information that the city was maintaining it. That is not true. We don't have an easement on it. We don't own it. It's not public maintenance. However, there is some flooding that is occurring Ron Avenue area, specifically on a couple structures that have water that tends to get around them during high rain events. Actually, High Street gets overtopped at times with water when you get a large flash flood event. So we did an engineering study. We hired Bishop Frankenberg and Associates, 6 months ago to survey the whole area, go back through all the reports, try to find out why this is happening. Staff had a feel for why it was happening, but we just felt that we needed a report to kind of show that to you. That's been completed. It is to solve the flooding issue is kind of like a 4-tiered approach again. There's an inlet in the backyard that water backs out of. So 99% of the time water gets into a stormwater inlet and then leaves. In this specific instance, in a flash flood, when the pond over here raises, the water actually short circuits and leaves and goes through the backyard. Okay? So we put a backflow preventer on it. That's been installed. The street department has installed that. It's in place. We also put a berm in. I don't know if you guys have seen that Ron Avenue Highway. There was a berm that was installed. That's there that if the water does overtop High Street during a large event, it doesn't go overtop and then go through the backyard to protect that one structure like I was talking about. That water will be forced down Ron Avenue to get into inlets down there. So you're just moving it how it kind of travels. So those are the two things we've done. The other thing we found is Borgia, when it was constructed, they did not put the correct size of pipes on their inlets. So water was able to shoot through those ponds rather than hold up in those ponds. So I'm going to be working with Borgia on getting that taken care of. But then that brings us to the KC pond. That does provide value to that overall area. And what I mean by that is it cannot be removed. It was part of Borgia's design. It cannot be taken out. I do think that there is some validity, though, to expanding that pond and holding more water up. How much, I don't know yet, but I'll be coming to you all with a proposal of maybe having them donate us an easement and then kind of doing a little joint project with them from the stormwater fund to dredge a pond, maybe turn it into a dry basin, whatever that solution looks like.
Dry basin is what I was talking.
Yeah, and when this whole conversation started, I think the idea was that it was ours. It never has been ours. I want to make sure that they know it's not ours, but it does, the timing was good because there is some issues downstream that could be improved if we did get involved. Darren will review that budget. I did put some dollars in a budget for 2021, so we'll be talking about that later this summer and fall. Is that?
Okay, any other questions? Comments? Okay, thank you, John. Someone else? Tony?
Good evening, Council. Just to follow up on John's input about the recycling of trash. I know last week our trash crews did identify a handful of people that did have their recycle cans out with trash in them already. So we did reach out to them, we educated them, and hopefully that helped out a little bit. On top of that, it is our mowing season, so we are starting our mowing. We are in the middle of asphalt work. Some of you may have seen some of the streets cut up already. I know Stafford and 3rd Street are cut up. We have some major concrete work to do over in Windy Hills. We hope to be starting that fairly soon. We are going to start cleaning up our recycle center. The 2 single-stream recycle dumpsters did show up today. So residents will start using those instead of our bins. And while they're using those, we will start cleaning out all of our bins and getting everything taken care of. We'll bale up everything that we have enough product to bale. What we don't have enough to bale, we will put in those dumpsters ourselves. It may not be all at one time. We may drag it out a little bit so we don't overwhelm the cans. And we'll get everything cleaned up and sold off.
Good.
And other than that, we're good. Any questions?
Any further on the mulch, improving the mulch, or something that, I know we talked about, you were gonna add something to the mulch or whatever.
Yeah, it hadn't gone as well, mainly because our product is so mixed up with the residents using grass, limbs, logs, and everything. You don't have mulch and you don't have compost. You have
Stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately.
We did get some
Let's go get a load of
quotes
stuff.
about to actually strain it, like filter it out to where you did get the little compost situation. And we got some quotes to turn that and what that looks like. We have an outline put together that's actually been sent to DNR. We're pretty excited about it. Right now, just too much to tackle. So we'll be looking at that probably going in the fall, in the winter time.
That was mentioned 6-8 months ago.
Yeah, and it is an MS4 type thing or stormwater thing that we feel like we have a good plan. It's just implementing that plan is going to take a little bit.
All right, thank you.
It's on our radar still.
All right, thanks.
All right. Anything else?
Thank you,
Thank you.
Tony. Mhm. Kevin, did you want to?
Good evening, everybody. To add to John's comments, I'll start with Meadow Lake Farms. That's pretty important for us to get brought in. We do have the meters in-house. We have 4 appointments scheduled for tomorrow. We're going to continue on, schedule them as many as we can. Right now, I'm going to start with a 2-man crew. Eventually, we'll have 4 2-man crews out there doing it so we can get it finalized. We will shift our work hours if need be to meet the needs of the residents out there. So if we have to make appointments at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at night for people that work, we'll do that to get it done. We will be starting the water line extension, hopefully within the next couple weeks, once we get some things lined up on that, on the water side. So that's all moving good forward. The wastewater side, we was able to finish up Rand Street sewer line project that we started before the COVID incident. So we're back to our crew again, so we was able to finish that up. We do have some pumping issues down at the treatment plant. We have one pump on our influence side that has failed. The piping is coming apart on it. So we're in the process of getting that repaired. Once we get that one repaired, we will move over to all three of the other ones and get those repaired so we don't have this issue pop up again. We know what the problem is, so we're going to fix it. We're going to be replacing a water line on Locust Street throughout all this stuff. We got a big project there for that. And just hoping things stay where they're supposed to, underground, and stay where they're supposed to be. So we're going on with that.
Where are you taking the Meadow Lake from to Extension?
It will be coming off of our pump station. Our pump station was built, it was designed to take in what they called the South Point Bowl, which was all the way around South Point Highway and taking all that in. It didn't have the pump, the additional pump put in it at that time, but it was all plumbed for it. So I've got the company, they've already came out. We've got everything working towards putting the new pump in and getting that all ready. So by the
Where's
time
that located?
it's up on Clay Street, right by the Clay Street Water Tower.
Oh, okay.
That little gray building that sits up there, that's it. It has 2 pumps in it right now with 3 pumps, two high-flow pumps and then a jockey pump that keeps the pressure at about 72 pounds, 75, something like that, constantly. We're switching that pump over to a VFD-driven pump, which will help on energy costs. With that, it'll drop the energy usage down a little bit, plus it'll give the life of that pump a little bit more life with that. So that's the plans with that, so.
Okay.
Anybody else got anything else?
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah? Nelson?
Evening, Council. Just a quick report, the library has expanded its hours as of today, our June hours, as we keep moving on this phased approach to moving back into our full-time hours. We're open 9 to 6 Monday through Friday now, and we're open 9 to 1 on Saturday. We're seeing pretty good reaction from patrons coming in. They're very excited that we're open. Our old standbys or our loyal patrons that come in a lot, we're seeing them being the first ones to return. And now we're getting new people each week. We're kind of seeing some new people getting brave and stepping out of their house and coming down to the library. Moms coming at first by themselves just to see if it feels safe, and then maybe the next week or two they get brave and bring a child or two with them to start. So we're kind of seeing slowly we're building up and starting to see our patrons returning as they feel safe coming back to the library. Courier services have resumed in full, so we're getting both the state and the local courier now, so all holds are coming in. The Friends book sale that we do in the lobby will be resuming this Wednesday. Computers, we're still limiting time in the building, but we got 5 computers up and running now for patrons to come in. Moving forward through June, we're still limiting time in the building to about 20 minutes. We're asking people to limit their time in the building and to wear masks. So a special thank you to Mark Scornia for bringing us a couple boxes of masks today. Really appreciate that. And a big thank you, of course, to Wayne and the Parks Department and Chad down there for building those really nice sneeze guards. A lot of the libraries in the area are struggling to find where to purchase a sturdy sneeze guard that looks good, and we could just make them here. So
Yeah, they're nice.
yeah, they're really nice. So really appreciate that.
Good. Good team effort. So are you limiting to 10 people now?
We're limiting to 10 browsers right now. We're allowing, social distancing. I think it's plenty safe to have people also use the computers. So we're also letting 5 people up at a time to use the computers.
15 total.
So 15 total.
Do you know if you have to wear a mask to vote tomorrow?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, the voting will take place in the big meeting room, and you do not have to wear a mask. It's suggested, I think they're wearing masks, but we're kind of going on the elections rules for how they use that room. And I think they've decided that you can't deny the right to someone to vote for not wearing a mask. So I think they've erred on that side. So I think they're recommending it, but
Okay,
yeah, you can come in without a mask and vote.
thank you.
Yeah, and we're not going to be enforcing anything like that at the library. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions of Nelson? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Lisa?
Just a quick report, the replacement of our outdoor sirens will start the week of June 22nd, and it should be complete that week. So that project will be checked off.
Fully staffed?
No. Our building has been locked down,
That's right.
so I've not allowed anybody
Don't
in.
need 'em.
I do have a stack of applications to go through, though.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Anything else?
Any other questions of Lisa? Okay, thank you. Sal?
I'll just give you guys a quick update on some projects, city planning and economic development side. So the Locust and 8th Street development with McBride is moving forward. They are scheduled to go to planning and zoning on June 8th, so a week from today, and then they'll be in front of you at City Council on June 15th. We did come to, we were working on the development agreement for the past few months. We had one item left that we were kind of going back and forth with them on, and then verbally on the phone today, they said, you know what, I think we're comfortable, and they took that out of their agreement, and so we're good now, and we should have that agreement, like I said, in front of you on the 15th with the zoning. And then we'll close as soon as they're ready, and they can start breaking ground pretty quick, and then Tony can stop cutting that property. The Shoe Factory property, the Chapter 100 abatement did close last week, so if you drive by there, they've started internal demo. He's going to do that in 3 phases, so it'll be a year and a half before all 84 units are done, but he's getting started, and I think by this fall he wants to have at least some of them open and ready to be toured. That's some good workforce housing that we've been wanting to get, so that's a big step towards our comprehensive plan. Project Trace is a big industrial project we've been working on. Some of you are probably aware that got postponed because of the virus, but we did receive news that the company is going to move forward with the purchase of the land, which is great. It's a commitment to our area still, so they don't have necessarily a schedule for breaking ground, but as of Friday, I asked for a date of closing, and Bob Zick, our 353 attorney, said he'll find out any day now. So we were hoping to close by June 1st, but I'm assuming in the next 2 weeks we'll have that closed. That'll be lots 21, 22, and 23. All 3 of them sold for $707,000 to 353, which they'll be able to immediately pay back to the city to pay down our debt, which will, 1, pay back the stormwater fund that was being borrowed and get us really close to having all principal paid back on that loan. I think we have about $800,000 in principal, and this is a $707,000. So one more lot sale after that, and I think the principal at least be paid back, which is a big milestone there. We are working hard on land acquisition for our next industrial project. I briefed you guys on a grant. We are still working with that, working with EDA. The next big hurdle is that location of where that park would be, and working with that prospect, getting that land under contract or under option. We're letting our partner industry take the lead on that, because it probably makes sense that a company would have better negotiating tactics than the city, because they're going to think the city's there with an open bag. So we're moving forward with that, and the grant is for us to at least get the road in and be able to get the infrastructure and work on that side. And then lastly, with P&Z, packets have been out. They have been posted. If we have them online or we have copies, like I said, Locust Street and 8th with McBride will be on there, and there is a cell tower. It'll be our first one in 3-4 years, since 2016. It'll be an AT&T cell tower at the Sharpshooters property, so you'll get a full report on that. They're meeting setbacks in code, but they're hoping to break ground on that by August. So.
Any questions of Sal?
So we have had some permits be up. I'm sure if Tom could fill you in, but some bigger change. Planet Fitness has submitted plans at Rabbit Trail, and then we have been in contact with some other flagships that I think by July we'll have another larger company land in here. So some good news in all this.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Mark?
Finish it up.
Good evening, Council. Just briefly, what's going on in the COVID front. Franklin County is stabilizing. 2 new cases over the past 7 days, 5 to 6 over the past 14. The good news in there, as you may have seen since the report was sent out Friday, 0 new cases in the past 14 days and 63090. I don't think that will stick because we are a very mobile society. People are moving all the time, so there will be new cases popping up, but hopefully we can jump on them and keep it stable. The state is not having quite as much success. The 14-day moving average is up 6.3%. It's down a little bit. Friday that was 8%. But state's been up a little bit. Main thing been busy on are the calls, essentially on what is permitted under what's going on. There's a lot of confusion. We talked about last time, the confusion between under the federal plan, what is permitted under phase 1, under the state plan, what is permitted under phase 1, and then when you look at the CDC guidance, which is usually the most conservative guidance of the 3. So it's always just trying to come up with a good solution to what people are trying to do. And then we're monitoring the civil unrest in St. Louis City and County. Typically what happens there, the St. Louis County units get moved up into the hot areas, and then Franklin County units get moved up to backfill the St. Louis County units. So, typically our units would be going into the real hot areas. We would mainly be backfilling, but we are monitoring, and we have been part of the incident action plan on that.
Okay. Any questions of Mark?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks all.
We have 2 minutes if somebody wants to say something really fast.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
That was pretty fast.
We have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Obermark to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?